take some Facebook. Um, I see it at the end here. Do you want me to try to build it? Okay, hello everybody. Thank you for watching. This is Celia Israel, State Representative, House District 50, and we have something put together that I hope you'll appreciate, and that is during this time of crisis, we do often think about those essential workers and who they are. They're truckers, they're grocers, they are of course healthcare professionals, but there's another group of essential employees, essential workers here in Texas. And in fact, they are not just in Texas, they're in Central Texas and in my district, in our district, House District 50. So we've always been really proud of the manufacturing and the business sector that happens throughout Central Texas, but there's an awful lot of manufacturing that happens in House District 50. So I am very, very grateful for the time today to get to learn more about two of them. ICU Medical and Luminex are joining us today, and they will talk a little bit more about what they do. We will try to wrap up here by about 3 o'clock, make this a short intro and give you guys something really hopeful to think about. I'm really proud of you guys and your organization. So let me start first with ICU Medical. Peter Kramer, why don't you say hello and tell us a little bit about ICU Medical?
Thank you, Representative Israel. My name is Peter Kramer. I'm the Vice President of Manufacturing and Technology at ICU Medical here in Austin, and also the plant manager of our manufacturing site here. ICU Medical is one of the world's largest manufacturer of IV therapies in the world, and those include solutions, the smart pumps, and the tubing that's used to deliver the life-saving medication to patients. IV therapy is critical during this time of treating critically ill COVID-19 patients, because in critical care settings, IV therapy is the most efficient and effective way of delivering this medication. And our plant here in Austin is the second largest producer of IV solutions serving the North American market. And so what we do every day is really essential to the health and safety of millions of patients. So that's sort of what we do here at ICU.
Great, thank you, Peter.
Sure.
And next we have another great company in the district, Luminex. I had a chance to go and see firsthand what you guys were manufacturing. It's a wonderful story. Eric Shapiro, why don't you tell us a little bit about Luminex?
Sure. My name is Eric Shapiro. Thank you for having me on. I represent Israel, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Global Marketing at Luminex. Luminex is a biotech company that offers a wide range of testing solutions that are used in diverse markets that include everything from infectious disease testing to blood testing to basic cellular research. Some of what we do involves working directly with hospitals and reference labs, and some of what we do is in conjunction with our partners who are global and who use our technologies to build their own tests to serve markets such as the transplant and pharmaceutical drug discovery markets. Luminex has more than 1,200 employees, with about 450 in Austin and 600 total in Texas. And we've got additional locations in Hayward, California, Seattle, Washington, Madison, Wisconsin, and then all around the world. And we were one of the first places to actually go live with diagnostic testing for COVID-19, which is the issue we're dealing with right now. And we were up in Baylor Scott and White in Temple, Texas, helping them to get their testing in their own facility as quickly as possible.
Great, thank you, Eric. Peter, how many employees do you have? And I guess I should point out, since you can see a little Longhorn gnome over my shoulder, that I'm a fan of Longhorns, and especially for those of you who didn't know, ICU Medical is the old Abbott facility there at Howard Lane and I-35. So if you're like me, you put your horns up every time you pass by, because there's some amazing Longhorns who are just lounging out in front of your facility. How many employees do you have?
We have about 1,500 employees at this site. Globally, we have several thousand employees, but here in Austin, we employ about 1,500 folks.
Yeah, we'll post your websites later, because I know you both are in hiring mode right now and looking for help.
That's correct.
The same question for both of you. Peter, given the critical work that you guys do in healthcare all the time, when you saw the pandemic and the wave that was about to hit not just our country but the planet, what did you guys do to adjust operations here in the United States?
Yeah, so we did a few things. The first thing we have to do, again, is to make sure that we can deliver this medication as effectively and efficiently as possible in the face of what we expect to be increasing demand. So we wanted to shore up our supply chain. We checked with our critical suppliers, raw material suppliers, also critical equipment suppliers, to make sure that we had adequate safety stocks in place. We also build our inventories to make sure that we have adequate material on hand to meet any surge in demand. And in addition, we've also ramped up manufacturing supply at each of our manufacturing plants in anticipation of and in response to the increased demand.
What was the timing like for you guys when this was happening?
Boy, it's tough to say. I mean, we see daily, we track sales and orders and what have you. So it's been kind of fits and starts, but we started to see a significant change. I would say towards March is when we started to see a sustainable indication that the market demand was going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, to put it lightly.
Yeah.
Eric, same question for you guys. You have a smaller facility, but here in Austin anyway. But what did you guys do to adjust to the pandemic and the needs for your testing equipment?
Yeah, so similar to Peter, we definitely worked on getting our supply lines in shape and continue to manage those on a daily and weekly basis. We have a great crew working on that. We ramped up tremendously over the last couple of months. We've extended our work week to 6 days. We've gone to 2 shifts per day. We added 14 team members in production in our facility last month. Overtime is incredible. People are putting in incredible hours, and I would say that's largely because they recognize the mission we're on, and somebody has to do this, and we are certainly on the forefront, and that's because the team has been leading the way and helping us to get the products out the door.
Yeah. Of course, I'm obviously very proud to have you both in my district, and I know that a lot of Texans are proud to know that your business story. But what is morale like for your team right now? Do they know how important they are, and are they doing okay?
Yeah, I think, thanks for the question. The colleagues that work here at ICU Medical are extremely clear on the criticality of their daily jobs. They are going about their work with a really grim determination and professionalism that I find personally very inspiring. Absenteeism is very, very low. The willingness to work the overtime required, to do the extra work that's required, as Eric mentioned, is very, very inspiring. Very low incidences of any kind of negative comments. So the folks here know we're trained for this, we're built for this, and they're quite clear on the critical role that they play in delivering these life-saving medicines to the market.
Good. Eric, same question.
Yeah, I'd say, get a little feedback there. I would say similar to Peter, is the team, they know what they've got to do, and they're working incredibly hard, and they're not taking the time off. I'm sure that some of them are tired, but they understand that this is a life-saving mission that they're on. And we've had people who, when this all started to ramp up, we had people who came from different departments because we had such demand and we didn't have the bodies to fill the slots in manufacturing. So people jumped in from other teams, foregoing what they were normally doing to get on the line and help produce products. So I would suspect, like many companies who are in this industry right now, who are part of the solution, people are stepping up.
Yeah. I hear you. It's prideful, but you wish you weren't in the situation that you're in.
Right.
Um, so, um, so just a reminder for those of you who may be looking for work. We've got 2 employers here who we're going to promote, but the Workforce Commission continues to adjust their systems as well. And if there's anyone out there who is looking for work, please, if you need some assistance, contact our office, and the Workforce Commission team, I know, is adjusting to this unforeseen situation as well. So let's talk about one more thing, safety. How are you guys, are you working any differently now in a pandemic, given that you've got a lot of people working together to manufacture a critical item? How are you guys adjusting your safety protocols within your facilities?
Yeah, so we've done a lot to take care of the safety of our employees and to make sure that they can continue to make this medication for folks. And first, we initiated a work from home policy for folks that do not need, as part of their daily job responsibilities, to be here at the facility. So we've been pretty liberal about allowing folks to work from home when that will be possible. We've also enhanced our sick leave policy. So if anybody does not feel well, to allow them the opportunity to get well at home and not risk their colleagues here at work. We've implemented social distancing across the site, including a secondary eating location to expand our cafeteria opportunities. So during break times and lunch times, folks can maintain the 6 feet of distance. We've implemented enhanced cleaning protocols for commonly touched surfaces. We've also acquired additional personal protective equipment, or PPE, for colleagues that need it, and obviously for the individuals that need it to do their daily jobs. That's always been provided. We've developed contingency plans in the event that we have a positive case on how we would segregate, sanitize the area, and get back into operation after the area was clear. We've helped employees with childcare issues because it's a holistic response, right? Schools are closed. Individuals have their young children at home sometimes, and we need to help them so that they can continue to come to work. We've also implemented temperature screening, so myself included, everybody who comes to the facility has their temperature tested before they can enter the facility. We've also limited the number of visitors, and we have a very detailed visitor questionnaire that we have, so we have a vastly lower number of folks coming into the site. And in addition, as part of the holistic response, we provided some supplemental income for the colleagues that have to work here on the site as part of their daily job to help them, not just here at the facility, but our distribution centers and elsewhere in the country, to recognize the difficulty it is when you have to come to a brick and mortar location during this time.
Oh, that's outstanding, Peter. Eric, what are you guys doing in regards to safety, taking care of your employees?
No, much the same thing. One thing that we also have is we've had a clean room for certain tests that we run. We can't have cross-contamination or contamination in our diagnostic tests. Mm-hmm. We've expanded that clean room out into much of the production facility. We still have the social distancing. We've got people in gloves and masks and gowns to make sure that they do not in any way contaminate anybody else. We're doing the temperature check. We're also making sure that visitors who come on site, as well as starting on Monday, everybody on site, when they're not in their office or eating, is now wearing masks. And I would say most people have already gone to that. So we've encouraged people to work from home, as well as making sure that those people who are at home have what they need to be productive. We've taken their laptops home and their second screens home so they can continue to work effectively. And then in general, we're basically understanding and recognizing that people's ability to function as productively at home is when they're in the office is slightly different. So if people need to take time and do something with their kids or walk away from the computer, people are much more recognizing that it's going to happen. And for those who are not coming to the office and they're working in one particular room, we always talk with the people in the production plant, but it's challenging for those who are also used to being around other individuals and are now isolated in their own office. So we try to understand it and tolerate that and have as much as possible live communications using a Teams platform. So So we're seeing faces rather than just using phones.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't see any real questions on Facebook, but one final question from me, your state representative. This is, of course, state government, and your legislative session is not scheduled to begin until next January. So, barring a special session, which I don't think is going to happen, we'd use the time between sessions to number one, get to know our districts even better, and keep our ear to the ground on issues. Is there anything that you would suggest when it comes to, you mentioned a lot of really good things, daycare, worker safety. I think of transportation and congestion because there's fewer people on the road. Is there issues that come to mind that you want the legislature, your state legislature, to work on as we get ready for the legislative session in January? This is going to be, I'll remind people, the last time the legislature was in session, it was post Hurricane Harvey.
Oh, wow.
So
from one disaster to the next.
Next disaster is a pandemic that has yet to crest here in Texas. So what do you have any thoughts about our budget or our priorities as we get ready for January?
Well, I mean, as we mentioned briefly before, our primary responsibility here and my major focus and concern is on the health and safety of our employees and to make sure that we can continue to deliver the life-saving medication we need to deliver. And I can't begin to imagine the complexity and challenges of our representatives at a time like this to just administer all of the new challenges that come up. And all I can say is I applaud you. I thank you for the work that you're doing. And I think at this time, we just really all got to focus on what we're really good at and support each other.
Yeah. Eric, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, we've had a lot of interactions at the federal level in the last, I'd say, 45 days. I've been in healthcare for 30 years. I've never seen the FDA move in minutes. I'm used to, weeks and months. And the FDA, the CDC, the federal and state policymakers, BARDA is another group we've worked with. We're putting in applications for emergency use authorization or grant requests to help support our research. And we're getting turned around at 5:30 in the morning, at 10:30 at night on Fridays. Nice. The senators, the congressmen are reaching out from a federal and a state level. We've even had manufacturing associations that have been supported. So, like Peter said, the tasks that are on the people that we collaborate with on the policymaking side and the government side is a yeoman's task, and they've been up to it as much as we could ask and more. And I think the best thing we can do is just continue to support what you're doing, work with you, and make sure that as we have needs, we communicate those, and if you have questions, you continue to ask.
Yeah. I see our friend out in Manor, Ana Cortez, has asked a question of Luminex. Will Luminex be the local supplier for testing? Are you focused on Central Texas, Eric, or what kind of distribution network are you looking at?
Right. Yeah, good question. So we're a global company. We have been prioritizing getting distributions to the people who are set up with our systems already, because they can get our tests in and up and running very quickly. It's a challenge right now to actually get out and train people because we can't go into hospitals in most situations. So where we can, we do. Where we can't, we go and we do virtual training. We do have a number of sites already up in Texas, but we're also, we are across the country, and we do have some sites outside the U.S. that are also up and running with our tests. They were already using our tests before. We just added our test to their platform. So we're trying to help out as much as we can wherever we can. I would tell you that from when we started, we've tripled our production in the last 45 days. We are on pace this month to get to 500,000 tests. The majority, we do a number of tests. The majority of those tests are for COVID-19. We've prioritized COVID-19 in pretty much everything we do. So we're trying to get the test out as much as we can to those in need.
And just to be clear, Eric, you manufacture the testing equipment.
Yeah. We manufacture testing equipment. We also manufacture. We have 3 different tests that are going on right now. One is a high throughput test. It takes about 4 hours to run. You can run up to 96 samples at a time. So you can get more than 500 samples run on a daily basis with that system. We have another one that's a little less complex. You can get up to 144 tests run per day, and that's a 2-hour turnaround time. And then we have tests that we basically give the building components to facilities who want to build their own tests. They put in what are called primers, which is like the basic ingredients, the menu, and they build their own tests. And that's another way we can do it. And that's those tests are all across the country, and different labs are using different tests, whatever works best for them.
Got it. Jansen Foster and Marcelo, you asked kind of similar questions, but your question was about what your company is doing for health and wellness to ensure that your employees are taking care of themselves. I think that's kind of we talked a little bit about your safety protocols while you're manufacturing, but I think it's a point well taken that we're all checking in on each other emotionally as well. How are you dealing with how are you helping your employees deal with the stress of the job and the stress of the situation? I think that was more of an emotional, social
Sure.
question too.
Sure. No, we have programs that were in place long before the pandemic that are resources available to our colleagues that they can call and get anonymous counseling and support through a network of professionals for all kinds of challenges, from financial to emotional to psychological, whatever might be a struggle of our colleagues. So those are available. Even though we are separate physically in a lot of cases, there's still a lot of connection that's occurring. I have as many meetings now as I ever have. Just many of them are WebEx or equivalent software platforms. So we spend a lot of time talking, as we always did, informally about how people are doing, how they're holding together, and how people's families are doing. Usually we'll use an opportunity for a background dog bark or some other noise in the background to say, oh, okay, how are things going? If you need to take care of something, that's okay. And I think these human connections are really, really important, and that's what we've continued to strengthen, even though many of us are working apart.
Yeah. Eric, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, very similar. We've had a program in place also, and some of our peers said, I and many of my colleagues are trying to reach out as much as possible in the face-to-face meetings. I encourage people, turn on your video, take the tape off the camera, because that human connection makes a big difference. And in those discussions, there is, how are you doing? How is the family doing? There's a much more concerted effort to make sure you're reaching out to people and taking the extra time to not just check on what's the business situation, but also how's your personal welfare, how you're holding up. And I would say, and the teams have been encouraged to the same, much more frequency of staff meetings, more frequent just checking meetings. And I think in this challenging time, I think that's important. I think it helps.
Yeah. And Jansen, if you look at the earlier portion of our conversation, in case you missed it, we did kind of cover just workplace safety, which we're doing right now. And Mr. Marcelo, he was wondering about your safety protocols. Does that apply to your plants, whether they're in the United States or in another part of the country or the world?
It's a good question. It's a very dynamic situation with the COVID-19 across the world, and different legislatures and different communities have varying regulations. We have a twice weekly, sometimes even more frequent call to talk about what our response is and to get as standardized across all of our plants. And for the most part, we're following very, very similar protocols with the temperature screening, with the distancing. Facial covering is now in, I believe, Los Angeles and then Texas as well, as our plant is too. I'm in a closed office now, so I don't have to wear mine. But I think as we learn more and as the requirements increase, we make sure that we're as up to date and or even ahead of the curve as we can be. But we try to be as consistent across the globe, whether it's in Ensenada, Mexico, or Salt Lake City or Costa Rica. We're all on the same call.
All right. Well, guys, we'll wrap up. Eric, you got a funny comment. Chicky Cohen is proud of you.
That was my mother-in-law. Thank you, Chicky.
And please let your employees and your teams know that I am very proud of them for what they're doing. I'm very. I hope that we look back at this time and know that we played our part. We did what we could. Some of us just, stay home and watch old college football games. And I've, been getting a lot of briefings. And then some of us gotta go bag groceries and in the case of our guests here today, manufacture critical things to what this crisis calls for. So again, we've got Luminex, which is up on North 183 near like the Oak Knoll Duval area, and ICU Medical is on North.
Mopac. It's Mopac. It's Mopac and Howard.
It is Mopac and Howard. I said I-35 earlier. It's Mopac and Howard. We wave at the Longhorns. So if you submit questions and get to them, we'll get back to you. And again, these are both two good companies who are doing the best they can and need help. So thank you all very much for your time. I'm proud to represent you, and our door is always open to you. All right.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm proud to represent Austin.
Stay
Thank
safe.
you very much. I appreciate it. You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.